You know, every time you hit that search button, a silent, lightning-fast competition kicks off behind the scenes. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the magic that happens in that split second. We're talking about page ranking, the complex process that decides exactly what you see first.
All right, so here's our game plan. First, we'll get a sense of the enormous challenge that search engines are dealing with. Then, we'll see how ranking is their solution. We'll peek into the signals they use to figure out quality, look at a super simple version of their formula, and then wrap up by talking about why this whole process is so important to our digital lives.
So, first things first, let's just take a moment to appreciate the sheer scale of the problem here. This isn't like finding a needle in a haystack. Oh no, it's more like trying to find the best possible needle in a galaxy that's made entirely of haystacks.
And that really is the central question, isn't it? You type in a couple of words, and there could be millions of web pages that are a potential match. So how on earth does a machine sort through all that noise and give you that clean, simple, ordered list we all just take for granted? So how do you bring order to all that chaos? Well, the answer is a process called ranking. And it's not just some feature of a search engine. You could honestly argue it's the whole reason they exist.
This quote just nails it. Finding pages that have your keywords on them, that's the relatively easy part. The real trick, the most critical job of all, is figuring out how to order those pages by what's most relevant and what has the highest quality. That is the hard part.
So to put it simply, what is page ranking? It's the process that takes what you typed into the search bar, scans the entire index of the web, and then builds that ranked list of results. Its role is absolutely vital. It's not just about finding pages that match your words, but about ordering them. And that ordering, well, that's the most difficult and most important thing a search engine does.
Okay, but how does a search engine actually decide what's good and what isn't? It's not just guessing. It's looking for specific clues, or what people in the industry call signals. You can think of these signals as the secret ingredients in the recipe for a perfect search result. And these signals, these core building blocks, they tend to fall into three main buckets: what's actually on the page, how that page is connected to the rest of the internet, and, believe it or not, how people like you and me actually use it. Let's break them down.
First up, content signals. Now this one's pretty intuitive, right? It's all about what's physically on the page. The search engine reads the text, it counts the words, and it looks for your search terms. But it's way smarter than just that. It knows that a word in a giant headline is probably a lot more important than one just kind of buried in a paragraph somewhere.
Next, we've got structural signals. This isn't just about the page itself, but how it fits into the great big spider web of the internet. The best way to think about it is that links are like votes. If a page gets a ton of incoming links, especially from other important, trusted websites, the search engine sees that as a huge vote of confidence. And finally, usage signals. And this, to me, is where it gets really mind-blowing, because this is where we become part of the system. Yep, every single time you click on a search result, you're basically casting a vote. You're sending a tiny little signal back to the search engine that says, hey, yeah, this was a good answer.
So, we have all these different signals: content, structure, usage. How in the world does a search engine blend them all together? Well, the real formulas are, as you can imagine, insanely complex and top secret. But we can look at a simplified model to get the general idea.
Okay, don't let the math scare you off. It's simpler than it looks. Just think of it like this. A page's final score is a mix of two main things. First, it's text score, how well the words on the page match your search. And second, it's link score, which is basically its popularity. That little letter A is just a knob the search engine can turn to decide how much it wants to weigh the text versus the popularity. And here's the really crucial part. Just by adjusting that one A value, you completely change the results. If you crank that knob all the way to 1, you get a ranking based only on text, kind of like the old search engines from the 90s. Turn it all the way to 0, and it's just a popularity contest. The real genius of modern search is finding that perfect, sophisticated balance between these two and, well, hundreds of other factors.
All right, so that's the what and the how of page ranking. But let's get to the so what. Why does any of this actually matter to us? Well, let's connect this back to our own search habits, and you'll see just how powerful this system really is.
Think about it. When was the last time you went to page 2 of your search results? Page 3? If you're like most people, it's pretty rare. And it turns out this number, 85%, proves it. The vast majority of us never venture past that first page. And that one little fact changes everything.
What this means is that ranking isn't just some technical detail in the background. It's effectively the gatekeeper for all the information on the internet.
If a website doesn't make it into that top 10, then for most of us, it might as well be invisible.
So, the next time you type something into that search bar, just remember that invisible force that's working away. It's an incredibly powerful tool that makes discovery possible, but at the same time, it's also quietly shaping the boundaries of what we can discover.